Hello and welcome to Being Human Hidden Depths, and I'm delighted to say I've got a wonderful guest today that you might have heard her on the podcast before. So good, we had to come back and do part two, possibly part 3 or 4. I don't know, this could be ongoing. Welcome, Dr Lizzy Bernthal, to the stage.
Excited to be here. Thank you so much, Jill.
You're very welcome, my darling. And one of the things I love is that we now know each other, you've been a member for a couple of years. And I don't know about you, but it feels like I've known you forever. It feels like we grew up together. It's really
So
strange.
much synergy. So much synergy.
Yeah. Well, it's true, isn't it? And there are so many times when you've said things to me when I've been having a bit of a down day, and hopefully vice versa, that we're kind of there for each other, which is a lovely, when you're part of a community, a wider community, and there are people that just kind of float in your direction and you go, I get her, I understand where she's coming from. And yet what I love about us is that my upbringing and your upbringing, worlds apart, you know, your experiences, I'm like, I could never do that. And you're like, it's fine, it's okay. And I don't know if there's anything I've done that you can't do, probably not. But
I'd say I have to just keep in quickly. We all have our stories, and your story is equally as amazing. So don't put yourself down.
no, I wasn't putting myself down per se, because I've had a lovely life, but I've had not as many adventures as you, perhaps. That's where I'm coming from. So Lizzy, it's so lovely to have you here. One of the things I want to talk about today is the stuff that you teach, the stuff that you share. And you know what? It's the stuff that's at your core and what you have been living and breathing. And what I love as well is when I read any of your posts or any blogs or articles you've done, you're walking the talk to this day. You're not saying, I've done this and I'm going to teach you how to do it. You're saying, I'm living this. I'm going to teach you how to live this as well. So when was the time when you found out what your niche was in your business, where your focus was going to go? Was it a penny dropping moment, or was it did it appear before you slowly?
I think the resilience of the confidence stuff, it's sort of like a natural journey. Because when I was in the army, I was my PhD was in psychological well-being. That really set me on the whole kind of resilience thing. And I think also resilience in the army is a really big thing, because you have to be resilient to go on deployments and that stuff. So resilience was just part of my being, really, as far as what it is and how we can support it and how we need it and what we can do to get it. So I think the resilience stuff and my resilience research and all that kind of stuff, that led me onto the resilience path.
Yeah.
As far as the coaching goes, when I knew I was going to leave the army, I really reflected on my career and realized that actually I had been giving coaching conversations all my career. So as a nurse and a midwife in my past, you know, and when women were having challenging times delivering or sadly bereavements and all that sort of stuff, I was doing a lot of coaching, not even realize I was coaching. And then when I became a senior lecturer, was supervising students, and very much our supervisory sessions were very much coaching sessions. And then when I was teaching and lecturing at university, I realized I was supporting students in a very sort of coachy sort of environment. So I suddenly realized that let's just do it formally, because I've been doing it informally for my career. So that was the coaching and the resilience bit. The ending workplace toxicity bit was that one day in April 2015, where I stood up at a meeting and said, enough is enough, this has to stop.
Love it.
And then I thought, right, that's it. I have to work out how I can end this. It has to stop. And so it just all kind of came together, really.
Do you know what? I love that story that you share. And I think so many people can imagine what it was like being in that space. Can you just unpack the story for us, and what it was? What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
Yeah.
Start at the beginning and tell us that actual, because so many people are going to go, oh my God, that happened to me as well.
I mean, even now I can take you straight back to that moment. I think, so what happened was I had a tricky boss, which is why I'm so passionate about supporting people with their tricky bosses.
Yeah.
And at the time I felt I was leading a slightly double life, because I was supporting nurses globally with their empowerment. I was speaking around the world and all sorts of stuff, living the best life, thinking, wow, I love doing this. I'm in my element here.
Yeah.
soon as I got back to the office, it stays small, which is why I have a poppy here, tall poppy syndrome, where people try and slash you down. So whenever I was in the office, I was put down, I was not good enough, and it was just, I just felt really small, really, really inadequate, not good enough. All that stuff was going on.
Was that the culture of the office, or was that a particular person?
Particular person who was notorious.
Right. And did that to everybody? Made everybody feel small?
Well, no, I happened to be a particular victim because I realised at the time that I was playing the victim. I didn't even aware of it. I just thought I wasn't good enough. I didn't realise all the stuff I've learned since, that I was a victim. You know, it was not coincidence. Every single posting, there was some tricky person that I had, often a boss, and that's, I'm picking loads of stories from childhood and stuff, but I think that's where I had this experience with this particular individual. And what led it to, I was doing a research project looking at nurses and resilience, and I'd spend weeks and weeks and weeks getting this all together. And then I found out the day before, he'd just gone, even though I'd been directed to do this and I was really passionate about it, he just suddenly decided to do something off his own back, which completely undermined any of the work I'd done.
Wow.
And actually got pulled really quickly because what he did wasn't great. So, and at that point, I thought, I've had enough of this. And I've always been one that suppressed, another whole story, but anger and all that kind of stuff. And I just had enough. And so I knew we had our monthly meeting the next day. And I told everyone at the meeting that I was really angry about this and I had to say something. And they all said, oh yeah, about time somebody said something, you know, we'll be all there to support you, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I walked in, the meeting happened, and I just stood up and I said, enough is enough. This has to stop. Whereupon everyone in the room looked down on their papers, words, just like they weren't there. The whole, and I think the irony of that was seeing their reaction, thinking you're meant to be supporting here, you're just ignoring it, made me even more angry. And I think that moment, I found my sense of empowerment. I found my voice in that moment. And then I realized that while I had my voice outside my office, as it were, others around me, I didn't have my voice with my boss and with, you know, the daily working environment. So at that point I said, right, no one is ever going to have to go through this like I've been through it.
Oh, lovely.
Got to stop.
Yeah. When you came out of that meeting, were people supportive again and going, well done for doing that, or was the repercussions something that you had to deal with? What was the fallout basically?
Well, what was very interesting, because although he was my boss, I had another boss in between, and they kind of went off, and she said to him, oh, did you know that was going to happen? Did you know that was going to happen? Because he went quite pale. And there was this sort of whole awkwardness happened where they didn't actually want to align with me because they might then get it from him. So it was just a very awkward situation. And the most awkward situation was because we had our headquarters meeting in another area. It was like about an hour's drive away. We were all in the car driving back. I was sitting in the back seat while the two of them were in the front seat, and I'll just stay quiet. Stay quiet. Which is interesting as well, that as soon as I gave my voice, I then had to stay quiet for a moment, well, for the journey. But actually after that, he just ignored me, which is great. That was very happy. I was quite happy, passive aggressive, very far happier that he ignored me than
he didn't know how to take you now. You weren't that person that he'd been used to bullying, and you reacted in a different way. So he was like, oh, obviously he was putting the blame on your shoulders for things anything that had gone wrong, you know. So a fly was in the room, that's probably Lizzie has opened the window. Knowing what you know now, and the huge experience that you've had and how you now teach people and how you react to situations, what do you think your younger self might have done differently with the current information, or do you think that was enough?
Yeah.
I did my thing.
I think, I mean, I've done a massive amount of learning. I think I realised my younger self would have nipped it in the bud, but wouldn't have had the knowledge then, but would nip it in the bud on the first time it happened. Not wait like 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's, if I only had known about the drama triangle then, which is a really fantastic model where we take on different roles.
Oh.
We all have roles: adult, parent, child, and we, flit in between all the time, from empowered adult to nurturing parent, how are you, to critical parent, you've got to do this.
Yes.
Then child, the fun child, like jumping in a pool or whatever, or having fun with your friends, or the petulant child, no, I'm not going to do this. And then when it gets out of control, the parent becomes the persecutor, the child becomes the victim.
Oh,
yeah. So I was absolutely right in that drama triangle and never heard of it, so I didn't know. So therefore, I was playing the victim, even though I didn't realise I was playing the victim. So by definition, I was attracting the prosecutor.
Yes. Yeah. So in that car journey back, do you feel like you could have said something or should have said something now, knowing what you know? Or do you think actually your instinct to keep quiet was probably the best thing to do?
I think my instinct, because I think, I think the difference was my energy was very different. I wasn't staying quiet because I was too scared to speak up. I was staying quiet because, quite frankly, I was thinking, you're both idiots.
Yes, there was nothing else to say, was there? It was like, I've said my piece and you've got to do with that. Yeah, that's a nice position to be in.
Yes. So it was an interesting experience. And I think, some people say, oh, wow, so brave. It wasn't brave at all. It was just, I just had to say something. And I was doing it for other people. I wasn't doing it for me. I would just say, this has to stop. This behavior cannot continue.
I love that when you get to that point of no return, and it's not so much losing your temper. It's kind of like, no, I'm not going to stand for that anymore.
Yeah, I was very controlled. I didn't lose my temper. It wasn't a temper I had to lose. I can't describe that moment of energy that I just felt. It sounds really weird. I sort of transcended.
No, I get it.
It's like, wow.
Enough.
Words were coming out of my mouth that I didn't even realize I had. Nothing swearing or anything, but just I felt like it was like a Nelson Mandela moment. Just said my piece. Yeah. It just came from my heart. It came from my intuition that I'd never really spoken from before.
That is a big difference, isn't it? Because if you were going into that meeting thinking to yourself, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say this, and if he says that, then I'm going to say that, and if he says that, then I'm going to say that, probably none of it would have come out in quite the way you wanted it to. But because, as you say, you let your intuition go and you spoke from the heart, and that line had been crossed with like, no, I'm not doing, this is not right, I'm not happy with, that's it. Then your intuition went, okay, then let me have a go. And you were allowed to kind of say those things that you've been storing up, thinking about, going over. But rather than go, what shall I say? Is this a good thing? Is that a right thing to? You just went with it. You went with your heart and your soul because you wanted everyone in the room to see that they don't have to deal with it either. And sadly, they were still too not wanting to be those tall poppies because they thought they were going to be next. So they still stayed there and looking at their notes and being embarrassed by the situation. Where in fact, there's probably one or two going, I really want to stand up and agree. And I really want to go here. But there was something holding them back. And that's what I love about what you do now, is that you give people the tools. So when that opportunity presents itself, they can do it without having to second guess themselves because they know a process to go through.
I knew nothing about coaching then. Interesting, when you said about the people in the room, I wasn't even thinking about the people in the room. I was thinking about far bigger, far wider. This has to stop generally, not here, not in this room. It just has to stop.
Everywhere. Yeah. And I don't think there's any person who's been employed anywhere will say they haven't experienced something like that. I certainly have. I remember one time there was me and about 25 men, and they were talking about Twitter, and it had just come out. So it shows you how long ago it was. And I was like, brilliant. What we need to do is get a strategy. We need to do this. We need to put some stuff out. We need to be, you need to set it up. I was saying to the guy that owned the company, because it's your company, but give access to people to do the blah, 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 blah. And he's like, oh, I was too complicated. Oh, no, it's a fad. It will go. It will pass. Fast forward a year, and he's going, we need to get involved with this Twitter. We need to be doing this thing. And everyone was kind of looking at me, and I went, is it just me? Or am I having a deja vu moment here? I said, can we just do what I said we were supposed to do a year ago? And everyone was like, yeah. I had to say it before they would jump on board. But it was like, for goodness sake, stop saying it as though it's just happened. We've been talking about this for months. But because I was the girly and I was the young girly in the room, nobody had really taken any notice of me. That's my take on it. I could be totally wrong, because I never actually went around and asked everybody. So I don't want to be sexist, although in a backhanded way I nearly always am, and I apologize to most men for that, but it's getting our own back time sometimes. I just felt that I wasn't being listened. I had no voice. They liked me there because I was good at what I did, and occasionally I had good ideas that they could adopt and take away and make them their own, so I never got any credit for any ideas. But when I kind of just said, I'm having a deja vu moment, anybody else? It just was exactly the same conversation to the day that we'd had that meeting before. So everyone has experienced what you've just described. Everyone's had that moment of like, oh, for goodness sake, and then not knowing whether they've got the courage to do anything about it, or whether they just go, oh, let it go. But every time you go, oh, let it go, there's a little part of you inside that kind of dies, and you feel let down by yourself. And that, in the wee small hours, is what wakes you up, when you're thinking, I wish I'd said that. Oh, I should have said that. Why didn't I say that? And it's, you're undermining yourself. So the fact that you don't only talk about, we've got to get rid of toxic environments and hope that everybody goes, okay, I won't bully my staff. That's not what it's about. It's about giving the staff those tools that they can use to make sure that they have a way, in the nicest possible way, to stop their boss, male or female, from bullying them, even if that boss doesn't realize, because most bullying comes from fear anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's interesting you said about a little bit of you dies, because I've had years and years and years and years of that happening. Literally waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking, I don't know how to deal with this. I wish I said something, all that stuff. So yeah, and I think, my mission to get rid of toxicity is to help every leader, business owner, own their truest self, their true essence of themselves. Because once you own who you are, your energy is different. You just don't tolerate it. And therefore, if you don't tolerate it, it can't survive.
Yes.
It's like, it's plucking out all those weeds so the flowers could grow. Now that's a bit woo-woo, but it's this whole, so it's not targeting the bullies, because I now appreciate they're going their own journey, they're suffering, because otherwise why would they behave like that?
Yes. Yeah, they're building a wall around themselves so that they're protecting themselves. Why are they protecting themselves? Because they're scared.
They're working from, they're coming from their childhood wounds, not from their love and their genius.
Yeah. And imagine what the world could look like if everyone was able to come from their love and their genius.
Yeah.
We
would have no conflict. Literally, we would not have any world wars ever.
It's a fascinating conversation, because I was talking to somebody the other day about the world is not broken. We have suffering because that's what we have, and there's no one to blame for the suffering. It's just that's what part and parcel of being on this planet is all about. And we even went back to the conversation about original sin and where did it all start. And I kind of agree with that. There is going to be, it's called life, isn't it? We all have those pains and those tragedies in our lives that we look back on and go, wow, I don't know how I got through that. But there are still many, many, many things we can do to make sure that less and less people suffer. We don't have to suffer to the extent that some people are suffering at this very moment. So I think by giving people, if we could do what you teach in schools.
Yeah, well, I do actually now. I've got one school I teach at, and it's,
that's amazing.
I do teach them about the drama triangle, I teach them about their ego, I teach them all about stuff, because that's where we need to start off.
And then when they first come across something like that, and their first experience of that might even be their teacher, but if they are able to help their teacher to see that, because that's part of the teaching that they've received from you and people that you probably train in the future, then we've got a fighting chance of making a big difference in the world. And I think without that education, all we're doing is putting a sticking plaster on the problem after it's happened, rather than preventing it in the first place. So I think your mission to end toxicity, and it's a very difficult word to say, toxicity in the workplace, is just so needed right now, because the workplace has evolved from the egos and the constructs of the 20th century, and probably before that, and we're now getting the backlash from that. And as women become more empowered, there's a different dynamic in the values that are going on. So it's slowly happening, but it's a bit like a tanker that's kind of moving very, very slowly. The more women that become empowered, so long as they don't follow the old school fear, scarcity, competition paradigm, and they come across with the love, connection, and abundance space, then we will see much, much more happening in that way. It's a bit like, I mean, my perfect example is Jacinda Ardern, although she's just stepped down, gutted about that.
And that's really sad, isn't it? Really sad.
Well, let's hope she gets stronger again, and maybe in 5-10 years' time she
the message the press have picked up on, that actually you can't have it all as a woman.
And yet, how many men are we begging to stand down because they've just been in power for too long and just need
I mean, courage, huge courage for her to express her vulnerability. But the message she's given is that I was burnt out because I couldn't do it. So, of course, that also gives the message, as a powerful woman, if you can't do it, then maybe I can't either.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? While we're talking, Lizzy, I can't help but notice there's a lovely board behind you. And I can see a photo of you in your army days. And read me that quote again. Maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming.
Maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you really were meant to be in the first place.
Gosh, that's beautiful, isn't it? No wonder you've put that on your vision board. I absolutely love that. Unbecoming what we were. Yeah, because there's no limit to it, is there? Just unpacking what doesn't serve us and then bringing in more things that do serve us. Tell me about vision boards, because I know you're very passionate about them. Tell me how it works.
Yes, I think, and before actually we go to that, one thing I must say, the Duchess of Cambridge is doing incredible work with children up to 5, because we know that your beliefs are set by the age of 7. So when we said earlier on about going into schools, if we could catch children before the age of 7, where they set their beliefs off, adulthood would be transformed.
That's so true. That's so true. Did you watch the was it Panorama documentary that went through? Was it called 7, where every 7 years they showed you the child and they went through to the man, and they've started it again now apparently. And it's so true, isn't it? Those beliefs are set in a very early space. So yeah, that is good work. I didn't realize that. That's good for her.
Anyway, sorry, that was just a bit of sideline. I just sort of highlighted the fact of the future. If we can earlier, we won't be unpicking all these weeds when we're adults, because we haven't planted them in the first place.
I love your analogies. It's so clear and so simple. You know, pull out the weeds. Don't need them. You know, it's lovely. So tell me about your vision board.
Yes, well, I think vision boards are so powerful because they set in your subconscious what's possible. And actually, they're really fun to do. In fact, I do need to amend this, actually. I need to upgrade it. But I think what it gives the, whether you're religious, it's God, or whether it's universe, whatever it is, that sort of power above us, around us, it's all energy. And if we send out the energy, we don't have to work out how it happens. And a really good example of this is why I've kept it on there, is that I always wanted to see the Rockefeller Christmas tree in New York. However, I never wanted to go to New York for Christmas.
A bit of a problem.
This ain't going to work, but I have it on there anyway.
You never know, yeah.
You never know. Well, last year we spent Christmas in America, which was really awesome because my daughter was studying out there. And we flew back from Florida to Gatwick. And on the way, there was a sick child. And I helped resuscitate that sick child. And because the child was so sick, the pilot made the really good decision to not go on to Gatwick, to go up north to New York. So we landed at New York in a snowstorm, and because all the flights were cancelled, we couldn't fly for another 24 hours. So unexpectedly, on the 8th of January, we found ourselves in New York with our summer stuff on because we thought we were in Florida. So we went to see the Rockefeller Christmas tree.
Why wouldn't you? That's amazing. And the fact that 8th of January in the UK, that would have been taken down, wouldn't it? I don't know why.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So yeah, exactly. So I'd leave it up there because although that's ticked and done, it just highlights to me the power of a vision board. I could never have made that story up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's giving the intention. Once you give the intention, let the powers, universe, whatever it is, just obviously you've got to be open to it. I think the biggest thing about this, you've got to be open. And this is why we don't always succeed as much as we want to, because we cut off that possibility.
We get cynical.
Fear, through anxiety. If we let go of that fear and that anxiety, honestly, we would not even tap into our potential.
Yeah. I always liken it to electricity. It's like, I don't know how electricity gets into my house. Not directly. I know the theory, I know the science bit, but I don't know how it happens. And yet I still plug something in and flick the switch and the light comes on. And I'm like, I expect it to happen, and it does.
Yeah.
It's the same with the law of attraction. I don't understand how that happens. But you know what? Every time I say, I'm going to need a parking space outside that shop, and I know it's Christmas Eve and I know it's going to be busy, but my parking space will be there. It is.
Exactly.
It is always there. So I don't kind of try to understand it anymore. I just go, do you know, if it's working, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So in a similar way, I don't do a vision board per se, but what I love to do, because I'm a writer, I love scribing and writing stories and all that kind of thing. I get a very beautiful notebook and I have a dream. I'm like, okay, I'm going to dream. I want this and this and this and this and this. If I can visualize it in my head, it goes on the list. It's not a goal, it's not a target, it's not anything. And then shut the book, put the book away, and that's it. And usually 6, 9, 12 months later, I'm tidying up, I'll come across this book and I'll go, oh, what's in there? Oh, look, there's a goal. Oh yeah, done that. And there's maybe the 1 or 2 I haven't done yet, but it has happened anyway, without me having to put a post-it on the wall going, this is my goal, or a target of how much money I want to earn or how many clients I want to have. It just happens. So I am a believer in the law of attraction / energy coming to / God. So I don't know what it is, but I have faith that there is something out there that is keeping its finger on me going, no, you're not going that way, Jill, we're going to go that way. Just listen to your intuition, listen to me. And that's where we're going to go. And it just feels an adventure, and it feels safe, and it feels like it's connected to my purpose. And one of the things you talk about a lot is genius, isn't it? And I feel that we've all got a little genius inside of us. I mean, Elizabeth, what's her name? Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
Can never remember her surname. She says her genius is without, but she calls on it and it comes to her, and then she can work and create her amazing books. So whether you believe the genius is without you or within, I believe there is a genius for each of us. And that is why we're here on the planet. So I'm getting a bit woo-woo now. Yeah. How do you help people? Because some people just go, I don't know, I'm not a genius. How do you help people to kind of identify that one?
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, what you said about writing, that's the other thing I do as well with clients as well, is in January, I help them write their letter to themselves for a year ahead.
I like that, yeah.
Rather than goals, I said, no, forget the goals, because goals are heavy and cumbersome. So write a letter, letting your intuition, your genius just go right, as if it's already happened. So you're congratulating yourself on, oh, you know, had amazing, you've done da, 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 and just have fun with it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So to me, your genius is your intuition.
Right.
But it's allowing your true essence of yourself to start shine through. And I think the easiest way to know whether it's your ego, those gremlins are at you, or it is your genius, start with is noticing the energy you feel in your body. Because even if you're not that sensitive to the energy in your body, you will know if something feels heavy or it feels light and exciting. And the language you use, that is the biggest tip. So if you're using externally or in your head, shoulds, have tos, musts, then that is try. That is heavy, restrictive language. That is our ego. You should go for a run. You should get to bed early. You should.
Yeah.
If it's your intuition, the words you naturally use, I love, I choose, I'm excited. It's a whole different energy. So when you know what language you're using, you know where it's then coming from. It's coming from your ego to protect you. I should do my tax return. That's because your ego is saying, don't do that, it's a nasty job. Just, I'm going to protect you to stop you doing it. Procrastinate. That's the way to do it. Just don't do it. Whereas if it's from your intuition, it would be, God, you're going to feel so amazing when you've done your tax return. Let's just get it done now.
Yes. That's beautiful. I just, so your ego is kind of getting in the way of your intuition by
Our
giving
ego's there to protect us. It's
right.
prehistoric. In theory, it's there to protect us, to keep us safe. It's to stop us, it's your fear, flight and flight kicking in to say, if the lion's chasing you, this is not a day to say, oh, I don't feel like it today. You just got to
yeah.
So, but unfortunately, I caught the butt then. Unfortunately, we use it as our guidance sometimes because we don't want to feel the fear. So we'll do it another day. When ironically, the action that we take is the way to get over the fear.
Yes. Yeah, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes. So the intuition is it's like a GPS system. And it can be, once we trust, we have to trust ourselves before we trust other people. So once we trust that gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, I can never think of an instant ever when it's ever failed. It always is successful. Go against your intuition, then you are going to have a disaster. Well, obviously, depending on what the event is. But go against your intuition at your peril. So if we listen to our intuition, it's the greatest GPS we'll ever have, that we've got with us all the time. Even if it's like, I thought I want to go to that restaurant, or, I just walk into a house. This is my house. I just feel this sense. This is my house. So it can be big things, it can be little things. It's intuition. A number of times we think, oh, I really feel I need to speak to that person to see how they are, and then blow me down, and then they call or something.
Yesterday, that was I've been meaning to ring this guy for like weeks and weeks, for various reasons, 2 or 3 different reasons. And then he came out that, no, I've not spoken to him for probably 3 years. And he rang me up and went, oh my goodness, you're never going to believe this, but I literally was going to ring you today. It was so spooky.
Yeah, the energy, you're sending the energy out there.
Yeah, see, this stuff works. I don't understand it, but I don't need to understand it. That's the whole point. Why make life complicated by going, I don't understand it, it can't be true? That just cuts you down from possibility, doesn't it? And also arrogance and ego by going, I don't understand it, so it's not true.
Well, that's ego saying anyway, I don't understand. That is ego. But I do not believe anyone can truly release their potential and be their truest self if they don't learn how to manage the ego and let the intuition. And that takes practice, and that takes probably, working with someone to help you do that. Not necessarily work, because that sounds hard, but having someone to partner you for accountability and to challenge you, and then then this is my ego or this is my intuition.
Also, it's really handy having someone as a guide, not necessarily a mentor, but it's like a guide through the jungle who knows this stuff, and can spot where the danger is or where the clean water is to drink. You know, if you imagine that's your life and you've got somebody with you by your side guiding you, going, no, that's coming from ego. No, that's your intuition. Oh, that's my intuition. Oh my God. And then all of a sudden, then you can jump up to the next level of if you've never experienced any of this before, and you've never connected to yourself that deeply before, and you're saying connect to your intuition, you're like, no, I don't know. Where do I hide it? Is it in the cupboard? I don't know where my intuition is. Is it in my chest? Is it in my head? Is it? But having that guide with you to kind of, when you share experiences and go, no, that bit that you did then, that was your intuition. And then it's like, oh, so I felt like that. And that's when, and it's like this massive mosaic that you're putting together, and the picture just starts to emerge. And you can see how you might have needed courage to sit back and listen rather than jump in and do something, or your ego stepped in and took over and it became a disaster. It's just spotting all those little things. And is it age that makes you wiser, or is it just more experience that makes you wiser? I know some very wise 5-year-olds. And most children are acting from their intuition, aren't they?
Yes, and that's what's a great point, Jill, because children naturally act from their intuition.
Yeah.
They don't know about ego then. So when they're really little, they know, like 3, 4, or even younger than that, you can tell that actually they warm to someone or they don't warm to someone.
Yes, that's true.
And their intuition, they're not judging their tuition. They just have curiosity. No judgment, criticism, or comparison then. It's pure curiosity.
Mm.
And the way to find your intuition, if you're not sure where it is when you have that quiet moment and having that silence, because that's when we allow our intuition to pop up, which is why on holiday we have all these light bulb moments.
Yes,
because we're relaxed and we're allowing our intuition to pop up. Suddenly we find we're lying by the pool, we've done a whole business plan.
Yeah, I usually do a whole business plan in my head, then go, I need to write this down.
Yeah.
That's my pen. I really should go and do something. No, I'm going to turn over. But exactly that, you get these epiphanies, don't you, when it's in those quiet moments, or having these kind of conversations where you give yourself permission to listen to a podcast that you know is going to be interesting, or have a conversation with a friend who you go, I really admire her. I really admire what she gets up to, and I wonder where it's coming from. How does she do that? And then finding out where they're getting their gold from. And 9 times out of 10, they could say, well, I'm not really sure, but I just went with my gut feeling. There's all different expressions, isn't there?
Exactly. We've all got it. Sometimes it's just how much we access it and how much we trust it.
Yes, I like that. It's the trust. That's what takes the experience, isn't it? Is trusting it. I do a little bit of people told me it's kinesiology. I don't know, but somebody told me it's the sway method of finding out what's useful food for me. It's the same thing. It's my intuition kicking in. So I hold a piece of food in my hand, or sometimes if it's in the middle of Tesco's, you can't hold it in your hand and then sway around. But you just think about the food, or you ask your body, is this food good for me? And if it is, you just kind of sway a bit further forward, and if it's not, you sway a bit backwards. And that difference is imperceptible sometimes. It's just a tiny amount. And I've done it with not people putting food in my hand and not knowing what's in my, so it's not my conscious mind going, well, no, I don't like that, so I'm going to sway backwards. It's nothing to do with that. So for me, somebody had a range of foods. I was trying it out, and most of them I was going forward, and then they put something that was bundled, 3 things together. And I went, whoa, like that. And I'm like, what is it? What is it? I said, it's either a piece of pork or orange. And they went, oh my God, it's oranges. And they put 3 oranges in my hand. And my body just knew it wasn't good for me, because I'm badly allergic to both pork and, not intolerant, allergic to pork and orange. So,
amazing.
There are so many ways that our intuition can help us. But the easiest way to start with is when you meet someone for the first time and you just click, you just get on, you just know it's right. It's your intuition going, they're good, they're okay, you can do that. Now, my dilemma is that I like everybody on the spot. So there's not many people that I would go have a sway test with and go, oh no, I don't think so. But my intuition has in the past told me, don't do that. Don't have that relationship. And I've gone, oh, it's fine. And it wasn't. So you live and learn. But so is that why you've called your company Release Your Potential? because this is where you're coming from. Once you get rid of toxic society, how to deal with that kind of culture, and your intuition and all the confidence and all the rest of it, resilience. Once you get all of those sorted, then you're just like.
I mean, I'm nearly 5 years into my business now, which I'm finding quite shocking, actually. I started when I didn't know a lot of this. I didn't know a lot about the genius stuff then, because I'm, as you know, constantly learning. I spent like £15,000 last year on courses, and just because just want to learn, because all my clients want the best, deserve the best of me. So I have to do it 10 times their stuff in order to help them. So yeah, but I've always been about releasing people's potential, help you find your true essence, help you find. So, but actually the irony of all that is I didn't realize how much I wanted to release my own potential. In order to, I have to release mine in order to help you release yours.
Yeah. And that's why I always seeing you and say it about you, you're walking the talk, totally walking the talk. Yeah. I love.
And my logo is two hands holding with, and I've made them like tree trunks, and then you've got the tree with lots of gold stars.
Oh,
like you're releasing all this magic, you're being held in the process.
it's like the tree of life, isn't it? It's like that kind of growth that comes from the heart. If you're giving that heart, that's lovely. Oh, I like that. I'd never spotted that it was hands. I just always looked at it from a distance and thought it was a tree.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, hands holding you up as you just release your gold.
Yeah, perfect. So oh yeah, I've got to talk about this. I'm just looking at we've done the vision board and I'm fascinated by that and walking the talk. You believe in a morning ritual that helps you to be alive and awake. And I'm full of admiration, but I don't think I could ever do it. Tell people what you do first thing in the morning.
Go for a cold water swim.
Oh, just saying it.
Make a nice hole if necessary, or I, you know, swim. And literally, I mean, that's all the science says, a degree a minute. So if it's 2 degrees, it's literally 2 to 3 minutes. It's not like going for a long time. I think there's so much research now in boosting your immunity. Silly thing to say, but I have even when my husband had COVID, I didn't get COVID. So I'm not saying 100% that's the reason. However, I do believe it is very good for your health. But actually, it is one of the most empowering thing you'll ever do, because it totally focuses your mind.
Yes, then you can only think of one thing, can't you? Get me out of here.
Yeah, so I think it's amazing if your head is all in a bit of a mess, like my office.
Yeah.
So if you're having one of those moments where you think, oh, I don't know if I can do this. It's just incredible. Getting in the water. Well, if I can do this, I can do anything.
It's true. That is very true. And it's just from a physical perspective, the adrenaline shock to your body. It reminded me of when I did some Qigong with Alessandro Furillo, and he starts off by holding up to the energy that you're welcoming the energy in, and it kind of comes down your whole body. So you're kind of clearing your head. But then he talks about the tapping. And he says, it's just waking your body up. How often do you bash your kidneys and, you know, and tap your tummy? All of your organs inside are not getting any wake up because we're sitting in a chair, or maybe we're going for a little run. But, you know, you want them to have a wake up because they need to know that you're alive and well, and they've got to keep you functioning. And it's exactly the same thing. You get into ice cold water and they're all going to go, oh, we're awake. So
I want to encourage, you know, you've got to do it carefully. I don't want anybody who listening to this suddenly jumping in cold rivers, because that would, you know, awful. But I think it's doing it gently. Now, I would never get anyone to do it on their own ever.
No,
I've been doing it for 3 years now, so I can just get in and then get out again. So I know how to manage my breathing and all that kind of stuff. But the first time you do it, it can be, you know, it can really catch your breath. So yeah, just lose your health warning.
Yes, I have every admiration for people that do the cold water swimming and the ice swimming.
Not with a cold shower, but actually I find a cold shower more challenging sometimes, because You can easily step out of a cold shower. You can like step away, or you can just turn the dial. You have to be way more disciplined with a cold shower. When you're in the cold water, you're in it. You can't really turn on a hot tap. It's just there.
Do you have a hot shower when you come out of the pool?
Yes, but you have to wait for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
You have to warm up a little bit, otherwise it would, well, not burn your skin, but it would be too much of a shock either way. So yes, wrap yourself up in loads of clothes and blankets, and then literally for about 10-15 minutes, and then have a cup of tea or something warm, and then get in the shower.
Wow. Maybe one day I'll come visit you and we'll do that. I don't know if I'm brave enough. Okay, so the lovely thing about you sharing your mission to as many people as possible, you now have created the Confidence Cafe.
Yes.
Which is a space on LinkedIn. On Zoom, where you can, anyone can come and ask questions and have a good conversation around things that have happened to them or how you can help them, and you give them some tools and tips and things. And I just think it's walking the talk. This whole scenario I have of you, it's like, look, this is what I do, this is what works for me, and this is what happened to me, and then you just kind of sharing it all the time, and that's totally free. So if anybody's interested in finding out more about Lizzy, go to her LinkedIn page and look for Dr Lizzy Bernthal, and you'll find the Confidence Cafe amongst all of the stuff on her profile. Go check it out every Wednesday. What time is that, Lizzy?
It's 12:30 to 1 GMT, or UTC as it is now, every lunchtime. Very occasionally, I will let everyone know if can't do it because I'm doing a workshop or something. But yes, it's literally, my mission is to make a really safe space. Drop in for a cuppa, come in for 10 minutes for the whole half hour. Generally, what happens is that somebody will come on with a question, and then it spends a whole half an hour just teasing it out.
That's lovely.
So there's no agenda, and that's the whole point. It's a really safe, secure space just to share stuff. And it's, it's wonderful how vulnerable people can be. You don't have to be vulnerable, of course. Like, I didn't sleep last night. What was going on there? Or I can't fit this. I don't know how to manage this. Or just to literally drop in question time.
And just checking, you don't record this, do you?
I record it for my own benefit, but
it's not public. So if anybody wanted to share something about a certain person that maybe was causing them grief, very much like the story at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, there are sometimes bits I clip out purely me speaking, but nothing else would be, and there wouldn't be any pictures. It would be like for a podcast, but I haven't done that yet. But so no one would know anybody's there. You wouldn't see anyone, all that kind of thing.
It's just snippets of your advice.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you share it?
Snippets of my tips. That all it would be, snippets of my tips.
And then if somebody's sitting there going, well, that's all very well, but half an hour just wouldn't do for me because I've got this awful situation, I just don't know what to do about it, and maybe need some ongoing help, you also do some fabulous webinars for an hour on a regular basis. Again, we can find out about them on Eventbrite.
Eventbrite, yes. If you follow me on Eventbrite, or again, I always put them on LinkedIn as well, and of my website, which is rypotential.co.uk. I do that, and then I always offer a free exploratory conversation, because sometimes you don't want to share it in public. Of course you wouldn't. So always free. And then of course I've got my one-to-one group and my group coaching programs.
Perfect. So whatever your situation, if you want to walk the talk like Lizzy, and if you've been suffering, and whether your confidence has been knocked, or whether you've wondered where it's ever gone and you never had it in the first place, or maybe you want to connect to your intuition and just explore what potential you have as a person, then you need to get in touch with Lizzy and find out more. It's very it's a wonderful, enriching, inspiring, empowering journey to go on, to connect to your genius, to work out all the lovely signs, and everyone's different, but she'll help you to work out what the signs are for your intuition, and just to see what you could do. And also for all the awkward little moments when you've had with somebody that is just like, oh, I wish I could have said that, I should have said that, Lizzy will give you loads of tools where you'll be back in control, and you'll be able to be bigger than you were before, and be able to make those choices around what you want to do with people that are probably not serving your life very well. So Lizzy, I've come to the end now. Again, we'll have to do part 3. This has been absolutely wonderful. Is there anything you want to share with anybody, a message whether it's about your vision boards or your swimming pool, or you know, about your confidence and resilience. I mean, ultimately, you're teaching people how to be resilient in this 21st century.
So the first thing I would say is that we all have confidence within us. We're all born with confidence. You don't see a baby looking, saying, don't look at me, I've got chubby legs. They all have confidence. So we sometimes need conversations to find that confidence again. The other thing is our beliefs are set by the age of 7. So I do lots of what I call metaphoric gardening, just pluck out those stories that we make up in our childhood that are a blueprint for the rest of our life. So for example, I sometimes get a client coming to me saying, I find it really difficult to speak up at a board meeting. And we found out when they were 6, they put their hand up in class and the teacher told them off and they thought, right, I'm not speaking again.
Yeah, that makes
sense. So unpicking those simple stories that just pop up, and it just to reassure everyone, it never has to be painful, because our subconscious will only release stuff when it's ready to release it.
That is so true. That is so true. And then when you do experience that moment, that penny dropping, like, oh my goodness, and then you let it go.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a wonderful experience.
Such a privilege. Such a privilege.
Thank you. It's a privilege to have you on the podcast today, my darling. Thank you so much for sparing some of your very precious time. And I wish you every success going forward in all of these wonderful endeavors. And I look forward to sharing Collaboration Global time with you. And of course, if anybody wants to come and meet Lizzy at Collaboration Global, she's there every month. It's always the last Tuesday of the month. And you can find that by going to collaborationglobal.org, the website, and booking straight on, or search for Collaboration Global on Eventbrite. And we're there as well. And you can see her as a regular contributor to that meeting as well. So thank you again, Lizzy. You've been an absolute star. And I will see you very soon. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.